Thanks. So firstly, thank you for giving this opportunity to present my work in SharePoint Framework. So today the sample I'm going to demonstrate is about displaying the hierarchy information in SharePoint Framework client-side web part, which is probably stored in a SharePoint list. So before that, something about me. My name is Nanddeep Nachan and I'm from Pune, India. And I have been working with SharePoint Office 365 and Microsoft Azure. Apart from that, I am C# Corner MVP, Microsoft Certified CSM, and also I have published my first ebook on SharePoint Framework. These are some social handlers to get connected with me. So moving ahead for the actual sample. So I have been associated with SharePoint Patterns and Practices community since a long time with my smaller contributions, but this one is my first contribution as such for SharePoint Framework. So this sample is developed around the concept of displaying the hierarchy information stored in a SharePoint list. So it is developed using React.js and SPFX version 1.6, which was the latest available at the time of development of this sample. So this sample can be accessed from this particular URL, which describes about how to install, configure, and use this sample. So sample also provisions the list as an asset, which can be used as a starter point for start using this sample. So going into the details of this sample, so what are the driving factors for us to implement this sample? So the idea behind developing this sample is that we wanted to show the project-based structure, wherein each of the node in the structure represents a user or a department or a policy and procedure. So by selecting that node, it will redirect to a specific page describing more about the responsibilities carried out by an individual. So we were looking out for firstly something like an org chart which is available in Delve so that we can show the hierarchical data. But unfortunately, there wasn't any direct hierarchical control available in Office 365 UI Fabric also. So we went ahead and we utilized few of the NPM packages available to make this work. So the NPM packages used are SPPNP.js, which is deprecated now, but we are in process of updating our code for this. So this was just to simplify the common operations within the SharePoint and SharePoint Framework. Then the second NPM package what we used is array to tree. So that helps us to convert the plain array of nodes into a nested data structure. So we have an array which is coming out from a SharePoint list, and we are transforming that array into a nested data structure, which then probably can be passed to a React OrgChart. So this is one of the NPM packages that is used. And the last NPM package used is the OrgChart, which is kind of a visual component, which helps for creating the organization charts, kind of a data structure. So for example, if we provide a JSON format, something like this, and we use this OrgChart React component, so it will help us to render the data in this particular format. So then let's see like how the flow of this particular sample is. So as I said, we are provisioning an asset along with this sample, which will help us to get started. So it is a SharePoint list called as hierarchy, wherein we are storing all the hierarchical information. And then using SPPNP.js, we are pulling the data from that particular list in a JSON format. And then we are transforming that JSON format data, which is one-dimensional data, to an tree structure using this array to tree NPM package. And after that, we are passing on this data using or processing this data using React OrgChart, which will help us to display the OrgChart in a client-side web part. So maybe instead of discussing this in a theory, let's see in the practical how it looks. So okay, let me just refresh this page. So this is how the hierarchical data looks like. So if I can edit this page, here we just have one property for this web part called as list name. Here we can specify name of the list wherein we are storing the entire data. And once it is done, probably I will discard the change. So it will start showing us all the hierarchical data, and even this data we can associate it with any of the URL. For example, if you want to show this to any of the or link this to any of the URL, it can be directly done from here. So for example, from here we can kind of mimic that this is representing any of the user or a policy or procedure, and we can link this to a page describing more details about it. So then just having a look at how is the backend data stored for this is that we have a simple title, then a parent, which is kind of an lookup onto the title, so that we can create a hierarchy of data. And then, for example, if you want to associate this with any of the URL that is representing this particular entity, it can be placed here. So since we have one URL representing this director of human resources, we can see that this particular graph is showing this node as an URL. Rest others, they are not URL, since the URL is not mentioned over here. So maybe going back to the code. So this code is again using this OrgChart as the visual component for showing the organization chart, and all of the data here is being pulled from a service which is again using the SPPNP.js to query the list and get the data. So this service is pretty simple, that it just gets to the list and get the data for title, parent ID, and the other things. And then once we have that data here, we are kind of getting those into the hierarchical nodes, so that we can represent that in a one-dimensional array. And once it is in the one-dimensional array, we are transforming that one-dimensional array to an tree using this array to tree npm package. And once it is transformed to the multi-dimensional array, we are stringifying it using a JSON, so that we can pass it to the React component called as OrgChart. And from there it is been set to the React state, and then that React state is used here to show the organization chart. So yeah, at least that was about how it has been implemented. I will just go back to the slide for the closure. So then what are the practical scenarios in which we can use this as an sample? So at least these are few of the practical scenarios in which we can use this as an sample. For example, if you want to show any of the company management hierarchy, then it can be used. Or for example, if you want to show project-based structure, or maybe to represent a document library structure in a SharePoint, or if in case we want to show the resource hierarchy for an access control or supply chain hierarchy, or for example, it can be used in a simpler way to show the family tree. So yeah, I guess that was all about this demo. So yeah, so thank you for giving this opportunity.